Hello, everyone. So today I have my first interview with uh, Deepta Sheshadri, and I'm gonna give a quick intro about her. And she is a Bharatanatyam performer, choreographer, and dance educator, originally from Bangalore, India, and now based here in Dallas. What makes her journey especially interesting is that she was actually originally a lawyer before dedicating herself fully to the arts. Today, she works to bring Bharatanatyam to global audiences by blending strong classical technique and with contemporary themes and interdisciplinary ideas. She has performed on stages around the world and has received several recognitions, including the Natya Chamal title from Trinity Fine Arts, the Government of India's scholarship to young artists, and she's also a graded artist of Doordarshan. Would you like to add anything on?
I'm just really happy to be doing this with you, Atharva, and I'm so excited to just share my experiences as a performer, somebody who's been deeply associated with music, not from a research perspective, but more from just someone who works with music in some way, shape, or form every day. And I'm excited to see where your research takes you. So thank you for making me a part
Yeah,
of this.
so happy that you gave us this opportunity, first interview. So, yeah. So I'll give a quick intro about myself before we actually start with the interview.
Sure.
So my name is Atharva. I'm 14 years old. I go to Jones Middle School, and I'm an upcoming freshman at Rock Hill High School. I just now started learning Carnatic music, and before that, I was in Hindustani music for about 2 to 3 years. As I've been learning and listening, I started noticing how music can affect emotions. Sometimes it's calming, it's energizing, sometimes it's almost meditative. That made me curious about something bigger, whether Indian classical music could actually play a role in supporting people who are dealing with chronic illnesses, chronic health conditions, things like stress, depression, high blood pressure, fatigue, or any other long term illnesses. The goal of this interview is for me to research and understand this question and relieve my curiosity by Lilith. So try and learn from experienced people like you, and really curious the what perspective and experiences it's going to bring us. And yeah, let's get started.
It's a wonderful subject, so I'm glad that you've chosen this as your topic of interest.
So my first question is: from your experience performing and teaching for many years, have you ever seen people been affected in ways beyond just entertainment?
Yes, absolutely. I'll give you a little bit of context about my association with Carnatic music itself.
Yeah.
I belong to a family that's full of very deep, hardcore lovers of Carnatic music. Before I even got introduced formally to music training or dance itself, my earliest memories are listening to Carnatic music at home almost every single day. Both my parents, especially my father, plays music on the phone or the laptop or the
Mhm.
car or some in some way, shape, or form. There's always music playing at home. As soon as I would wake up, I would hear Carnatic music on the radio. Whenever we were traveling, whether it was within the city or outside, we would not be given a choice in terms of what
Yeah.
music could play in the car. It was always Carnatic music. So I think it became like a big part of my existence in a way. And we would play this fun game where we would my dad would play something and then he would ask me to guess the raga. um, so
Oh,
that's something we still do till date. So whenever I'm in a concert and he's not around, I text him and I say I'm not able to guess the raga. So it was a very important part of my childhood. And of course then later I got introduced to music training.
hmm,
And through the years, it's become a part of my life as a performer, as a Bharatanatyam performer. And as a performer, music is not just an accompaniment for us, but
hmm,
it is really the emotional landscape on which we can present whatever we present. So it really forms like the bedrock for what we try to achieve as performers in dance. So even in a performance, when the music and the dance really come together, I think that is what leaves the audience with a certain feeling. We work with this concept of rasa or bhava in Indian classical dance and music as well. And it's music is really the medium through which we try and convey those emotions to the audience. So when there is a good sync between the music and the dancer, it has the capacity to leave the audience with something. So, to answer your question, yes, as somebody who grew up with music and as someone who has now made dance such a huge part of my life, for which I'm really dependent on music, I can definitely see that it has an impact on the audience much beyond being just entertainment, because it really has the ability to move people in a particular way.
So, did you do Carnatic music as a singer before going into Bharatanatyam, or?
Not as a singer, but I was put into like music classes, dance classes when I was a child, and I continued to learn for a long time. And then I came back to it as an adult because I thought music training. It is. I didn't think. I know that music training is important for a dancer as well. So I still continue to be a student of music. I listen to a lot of music at home. Not just for what I need to practice or perform, but even otherwise when I'm cooking or when I'm cleaning, I'm always like playing. My first choice is always Carnatic music, but my husband and other influences have also obviously introduced me to different genres of music. But if anyone asks me, I'll always say Carnatic music is my go-to choice of music.
Yeah, that's amazing. Maybe we'll also implement that raga game
Yeah,
in our car rides.
it's fun.
So my next question is: have like people who have been affected approached you after like a concert or a performance and shared how, and if they did share, like how did it make them feel? The Carnatic music. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I think that has certainly happened. There are certain compositions that can bring out a particular quality in the audience. As a performer or as performers of music and dance, our aim is always to go beyond the technical aspects, even though we train so intensely with respect to technique. When we're in a performance, when you're performing, your goal is always to reach the audience in some way, to stir something within them, to make them feel something. Um, so, for instance, there are certain compositions, there are a lot of Devarnamas in Kannada, where the poet is describing some sort of a relationship between Yashoda and Krishna, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
If it's Jagadodharana or Baru Krishnaya, very common compositions, but it always moves people in the audience in a particular way.
Mm-hmm.
It maybe leaves them feeling nostalgic about their own relationship with their parents or their children.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes certain compositions can evoke this sense of bhakti or devotion, the state of yearning. So the choice of music, the composition, all of these coming together, the raga, all of these definitely have an impact on the audience. And many times people have come back and said, it touched me in some way. Or maybe
Mm-hmm.
I didn't understand everything that you were doing, but it made me feel
Mm-hmm.
something. People who may not have had exposure to music, Indian classical music or dance, a lot of times they have said, it reminded me of something in my own life, or it gave me a way to feel something that maybe I didn't have words to describe that feeling with. So yes, roundabout answer to your question, but certainly I have had people come and tell me musically or through dance that it certain emotions were tapped in them, or they felt a certain raw emotion within them after watching or listening to something.
Yeah, that's really good answer. Thank you. Um, my next question is, I've heard that people say that certain ragas can be calming or healing, like you said. Um, do you think there's a truth to that? I think you already answered that, but could you go a little deep dive into what ragas it might be based on your experience?
Sure. Yeah, I do think, again, I'm not a medical expert and neither have I done research on the subject, but just on the basis of my own experience and what I've seen with people around me, I do think ragas can influence the emotional states of the listener. And for instance, for my own self, I think there are certain, I have a certain like affinity for certain ragas, certain deep ragas like Bhairavi, Todi, Varali. All of these make me feel a sense of meditative, contemplative. They put me in that state of mind. Um, Certain ragas like Neelambari, for instance, is understood to be, it's commonly understood to be something that is used to put people to sleep. They also play it in the temples when they're putting the deity to sleep and things like that. So they evoke a sense of like calm, lullness, I think, that state of mind. Yeah, sorry, you were, I think I interrupted you. Were you going to say
No,
something? Okay, yeah.
do you have anything else to say on
Yeah, I
that?
think there are definitely ragas that have certain impact on people's state of mind. I have felt that myself, and uh, it depends on, I think, the tempo that is used at times also. But definitely, I think joy is also another emotion. For instance, when we perform uh, from a dance aspect, when we end the performance, we usually end with a composition called a Tilana, which is like a very high energy,
Mm-hmm.
high, like high paced, very fast paced sort of a piece. And a lot of times those compositions are set to ragas that bring about a sense of like elevated joy, Mohanam, Mohana Kalyani, Tilang, all of these sort of, they leave you with a feeling of joy at the end of a performance for the viewer as well as for the performer. So I think there's a lot from my experience and from a dance perspective. I think definitely it can influence the state of mind for the audience as well as for the performer.
So I heard you mention about the tempo of how the a certain raga is. Could you also think that the time of day when the person is listening or watching a performance, including Carnatic or Hindustani music, can affect the listener?
Yes, I think so. Like I mentioned, this Neelambri was the first thing that came to my mind because it is supposed to be a tune that, a melody that can put somebody to sleep or, induce a sense of calmness. And I've always heard it in the temples when they perform this sort of a ritual for putting the deity to sleep. And it also invokes that sense of calmness
Mm-hmm.
within me. And I do think there is some sort of, I have heard that there is some sort of traditional understanding of which ragas are more suited for particular times of the day, and they are aligned based on the human body's rhythmic cycle through the day. um, Even when we perform, for instance, even in a dance performance, we do pick compositions based on when we're performing them, whether it's during the day or the evening. What do we want to end the performance with? If it's we're finishing later in the evening, do we want a heavier piece? Do we want something that we leave the audience with a sense of joy when they go back home, depending on the time of day as well as what comes before it? So maybe if it's a morning performance, we would start with something joyful.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's something in the evening, maybe you mix it around based on the sort of audience you're
Vibe
expecting.
that
Yeah,
is,
the
yeah.
sort of environment that you're creating. Even in class, I have noticed sometimes students feel they respond differently based on the environment, that the musical environment that is being created depending on the time of day. So I do think there is definite correlation there.
Yeah, so my next question is that for someone who might be dealing with a lot of stress, they might have anxiety, are there any certain ragas that might help them relax,
Yeah.
maybe like soothe them down?
Right. Yeah. Again, just from my own personal experience, this is obviously not from a medical perspective or even musically. I'm not sure if this is how it's supposed to be, but this is my personal experience. There are certain ragas like Kannada, Kapi, Shankarabharanam, Ananda Bhairavi. Anand, it has the word joy itself in it,
Mm,
Anandam. So all of these compositions evoke a sense of mm, it gives you a good feeling, you know. It leaves you feeling happy, peaceful. Neelambri definitely always puts me in a, it's one of my favorite ragas. It always puts me in the state of like calm. um, and at times if I want to really focus, then I listen to other compositions that put me in a meditative state of mind. So I do think that there is um, definite scope for study for understanding how some of these compositions can help people dealing with stress. It has definitely helped me on an ongoing basis, on an everyday basis when I'm dealing with a lot of things. My go-to is some of these kind of tunes or melodies or compositions that help me relax and put me in a better state of mind.
So after performing, have you like the ragas you just mentioned? Have you performed them before, or?
Yeah, I have performed a lot of these. Um, More than while performing, I feel like it's less in our control in the sense that you really have to give into whatever you're doing. But I definitely do have a pre-ritual, and I know a lot of performers also do this. We listen to certain compositions or ragams that can put you in a state of like calm or meditative state of mind, preparing you for what's coming next. You're like readying yourself for something big, so you want to really like zero in and focus on what you're doing. So when I'm putting on my makeup, I'm getting ready. My go-to is Varali. Um,
Mm,
it's I don't think it's necessarily the choice of ragam for calmness, but for some reason it just puts me in this very meditative state of mind. Or Bhairavi. Sometimes I've been like listening to it from when I was very young. Even when I would study, I would sometimes play Bhairavi as like an instrumental version of a
mhm.
particular composition of Bhairavi on YouTube, and I would sit and focus. It would help me focus. It somehow just reminds me that life is bigger than
Mhm.
my little problems on an everyday basis. It somehow makes me connect to something deeper and bigger. So I like listening to it to just like put myself in a nice, like, focused state of mind. Yeah.
So we already discussed about how this certain performances can affect the audience.
Right.
Have you felt it's affected you in a certain way after maybe an Arangetram or maybe just watching an Arangetram?
Yeah.
You felt something?
Yeah, absolutely. There are certain performances, whether I'm performing or if I'm watching someone, that has left me feeling something very deep, um, depending on the subject that is being performed. If it's a very heavy emotional piece, then it kind of sits with you for a long time. You leave and then you think about whatever it's. It need not be what is exactly being performed, but it
Mhm.
evokes something in you that you sort of let simmer in your mind, and then you go back to it later. You keep thinking about it. I ruminate over whatever it evoked in me. But also sometimes it's just joy. Like sometimes music concerts, especially if it's ended on a high note, I leave feeling good at the end of it. You feel like you are kind of set for whatever's coming next. It leaves you kind of feeling pepped up.
Yeah, so that's amazing to hear that performing,
Yeah,
not just listening to uh, the Carnatic music or the certain ragas can affect you.
yeah.
And my next question is, do you think this is like a meaningful area to explore, considering that there's so many people out there who might have already deep dived into this topic? Or
I definitely think it's a very good subject to explore, because I was doing some reading, because we were going to have this chat. So I was trying to put my thoughts together, and I came across quite a few articles that have spoken about the effect of music on stress relief or illnesses or something even bigger, like deeper illnesses and stuff that you were mentioning earlier. Although from what I understood, most music therapy, I think, is commonly understood as
mm,
something that does help people. And it's been understood as something that helps people for a long time, not necessarily recently. But it's, I think, again, like people like me, just based on experience and socioeconomic circumstances, that you understand what kind of an impact it has on you. But definitely, I think there is room for understanding medically, scientifically, what is it that you can really use this. Indian classical music is so rich, and it is laden with this concept of bhava that I was talking about earlier. It has the capacity to really bring out stir certain emotional states in the listener. And a lot of times I have heard that from people, even who may not have so much of knowledge or understanding of music itself. Exposure to music can affect them in certain ways. or move them in certain ways. So I think there is definitely a lot of room to understand how you can take something as rich as this to translate it into something that can help people um, study it scientifically, or understand from a neuroscience perspective what impact it can have on people. I think it's a wonderful subject to study. And yeah, I hope you uncovered more through your process.
Um, yeah. So, uh, thank you. And one last question. From your personal perspective, do you feel music has the potential to support people dealing more specifically into chronic illnesses or long-term health issues like diabetes,
Yeah.
blood pressure?
Again, just from experience, I think yes. Um, as somebody who's so deeply immersed in music and dance every day, um, I do think that the Indian classical arts have so much to offer. Even to somebody who's not learning it or performing it or whatever, even just the general population has so much to offer because it is so deep, and it is so rich, that there is so much to uncover even for people who may not be deeply associated with it. So I do think, yes, long term there could be certain positive sort of experiences for people dealing with illnesses. Obviously, I'm sure there's a lot more to study on that aspect, but yes, I think the arts have a lot to offer. And yes, I'm sure there is something that you can uncover scientifically or medically for this.
Thank you. That's all questions I had. And once again, I just wanted to ask, since we are talking a lot about having positive impact,
Yeah.
so does certain type of music also have a negative impact, or
Yeah,
so
that's a good
what are your
question.
thoughts on that? I
Yeah.
I don't think that captured on the mic, but the question was, does certain music affect people in a negative way,
Yeah.
perhaps?
Yeah, maybe. I'm biased towards saying no, because only because I have always felt good listening to music. It may not always make me feel joyous. Like I was saying earlier, some tunes, they make me almost sometimes tear up just because it affects me so deeply.
Mm-hmm.
It brings out something else in me. I can't name the feeling, or I can't name exactly what I'm feeling at that point, but it just evokes certain emotions. I wouldn't necessarily call that negative, but yes, there is, for instance, Varali, the ragam that I was talking about earlier. They say that they don't, musically also, the teachers never teach a composition in Varali to their students. They're sort of supposed to learn it on their own because it's supposed to create strife between the teacher and the
Mm-hmm.
student. So I don't think it has a negative connotation, but there is something there which has led to people not really teaching this particular tune to their students. They're encouraged to just like do it on their own. You're never supposed to teach this composition. So maybe because there is some sort of understanding that it is a deep sort of a ghanaragam, so it can evoke certain emotions. So maybe that is why. So it is possible, I think, but I would sort of lean towards the positive aspect just because of my experience with music.
Yep. Thank you so much. And once again, thank you for your time, for your sharing your experience on this topic. It's really going to help me on the research perspective on this. And for the audience over there, I want you guys to comment any questions on this post. If you have any questions you might want to ask uh, experts or professionals like Deepta. And yep, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.